Chapter 1. The crash and the howl. The night the world ended, it smelled like wet asphalt and burnt rubber. Rain hammered the windshield in silver sheets, the wipers beating frantically as my little car skidded along the mountain road, tires hissing in protest. Headlights carved a narrow tunnel through the darkness, the forest on either side looming like a living thing. Come on," I whispered, fingers clenched so tight around the steering wheel that my knuckles ached. My chest hurt worse. It wasn't from the seatbelt. It was from the message still glowing on my phone, face down on the passenger seat. One word from a number I'd hoped was gone forever. Coming. I should have smashed the phone when I left. Should have thrown it out the window along with the last of my fear. But fear clung stubbornly, like smoke in my lungs. Even now, with a duffel bag of my entire life in the back seat, and miles between me and the town where everything had gone wrong, it curled at the base of my skull, whispering, "You're not safe." Lightning slashed across the sky, a white-hot vein that turned the world blinding for a heartbeat. Thunder rolled over the mountains a few seconds later, low and long. The rain only intensified, flattening against the glass. I shouldn't be driving in this. I should have stayed at the shitty motel, ignored the text, locked the door, pretended the past couldn't cross state lines. But when you've spent years learning exactly how far someone will go to keep you, you stop believing in distance. So I drove. The GPS had cut out 10 miles back. No service. No friendly blue dot showing I was still on the right path. Just this 2-lane ribbon of cracked asphalt, winding deeper into the pines like some kind of dare. I checked the rearview mirror for the 100th time. Just blackness. No headlights. No car. No one. "You're fine, Mira," I muttered. "He's not here. You're fine." I almost believed myself, right up until the eyes appeared. They flashed in the headlights at the edge of the road, twin orbs of molten amber cutting through the downpour. Too high to be a fox. Too big. For a second, my brain translated it as a trick of the light. A reflection. A deer, maybe. Then something huge moved. Shit! The creature lunged out of the trees, a blur of dark fur and muscle. It was a wolf. Had to be. But wolves didn't grow that big. Didn't look like they'd been drawn out of nightmares. Shoulders as high as the hood. Jaws wide. Lips peeled back over glinting teeth. I yanked the wheel. The car fish-tailed. The world flipped sideways in a violent smear of motion and screaming tires. My shoulder slammed into the door. The headlights swung crazily, catching a flash of fur, trees, the empty drop beyond the guardrail. The impact shattered the night. Metal shrieked. Glass exploded. I had a vague impression of weightlessness, my stomach lurching as the car spun. Then the earth rose up and punched me hard enough to knock the air from my lungs. Silence crashed down after the chaos, heavy and stunned. The ticking of the engine, the frantic drum of rain on the crumpled roof. Somewhere far away, a branch creaked under the force of the wind. I tasted blood. Pain came in patches, sharp in my ribs, hot across my forehead, tingling in my hands. My ears rang. For a few seconds, all I could do was blink at the airbag deflating in front of me like a dying white balloon. Move. The command wasn't my voice. It didn't even sound like a thought. It felt other, deep, like some buried instinct shoving up through shock. I fumbled with the seatbelt. My fingers were slick, shaky. It finally gave, the strap snapping back. The driver's side door was wedged against something. The frame buckled. Rain slipped through a long crack in the windshield, cold needles on my face. I turned, coughing, and shoved at the passenger side door. It groaned open 2 inches, then 3. Wind punched in, wetted and freezing, loading the air with the scent of pine sap and soil. And underneath it, something else. A smell like smoke and wild earth, like fur warmed in sunlight. It hit me in the chest and spread outward, inexplicable and wrong and good. Too good, comforting and intoxicating all at once. My heart stuttered. "Help," I tried to call, but my voice came out raw, strangled. "Somebody—" Branches snapped somewhere outside the wreckage. Heavy footsteps, crunching through leaves and mud, drew closer. The hair rose on my arms. The wolf. Panic jolted me, sharp enough to cut through the fog. I scrabbled blindly for something. My phone, any weapon, the stupid motel pen that had rolled under the seat. A shadow blocked the remaining light from the cracked windshield. Not an animal. A man. Through the spiderweb pattern of shattered glass, I saw a broad silhouette, rain cutting down his shoulders like liquid silver. He stepped closer, and the storm tilted around him, the world narrowing to the outline of his body. Tall, solid, the kind of build you'd label dangerous on instinct alone. The passenger door was wrenched fully open with a jerk that nearly sent me sprawling. Cold air washed over me, stealing my breath, but it wasn't as shocking as the man now filling the doorway. For a heartbeat, I forgot how to breathe entirely. He was soaked, dark hair plastered to his forehead, water tracing the hard angles of his jaw. His eyes, God, they were too bright in the low light, a shade of gold that shouldn't exist in a human face, catching and holding what little illumination the storm allowed. Old. Some irrational part of me thought, "Those eyes are old." "Don't move," he said, voice low and rough, like it had been dragged over gravel. I flinched anyway, bracing. The seatbelt was off, but my legs were tangled with the deflated airbag. Pain bit deep when I shifted my weight. "Who—" I started, but my throat closed on the rest. "Who are you? Where did you come from? What was that thing on the road?" His gaze swept over me quickly, clinical and sharp, lingering on my forehead. I followed his eyes and touched my skin. My fingers came away red. "Head wound. Probably a concussion," he muttered, more to himself than to me. "Ribs? Hurt," the words scraped out, "but I can move, I think." He nodded once, like this confirmed something. Rain slashed at his back, soaking the car's interior. That wild smoke scent wrapped around me more intensely now, clinging to the air inside the cab. It seemed to come from him. Not possible. People didn't smell like this. Yet I couldn't drag air into my lungs without wanting more of it. "What happened?" I demanded, the edges of panic sharpening my tone. There was, on the road, his jaw tightened. For a fraction of a second, something flickered across his face. Guilt, rage, fear. It was gone too fast to pin down. "It's not important right now," he said. "We need to get you out before this thing goes up." As if on cue, the engine made an ugly sputtering sound. The sharp scent of gasoline seeped into the car, mixing with rain and pine and him. Fear surged anew. He didn't wait for permission. Large hands slid under my arms, careful but firm. I tensed, instinct screaming from some old, familiar place. Too close, too male, just too strong. But something about his touch didn't feel like the others. Not grabbing, not claiming. Anchored, controlled. "On 3, he said quietly. 1, 2. He lifted on 2. Pain flared white-hot along my side as my legs untangled and I was dragged from the wreck. I gasped, the world spinning. Then cold mud met my back, and I lay there, rain soaking my clothes, staring up at the bruised purple sky. The car loomed a few feet away, crushed front end smoking faintly. He stepped between me and it, a dark wall. "Can you stand?" he asked without looking back. Maybe. Try." I pushed up on my elbows, everything trembling. My vision blurred for a moment, edges graying, but I forced myself upright. Pain dug into my side with every breath. I managed to get one knee under me. A warm hand closed around my forearm. My skin lit up under his touch, awareness crackling from wrist to shoulder like static. I sucked in a breath. He noticed. His gaze snapped to mine, eyes narrowing slightly. For a long second, neither of us moved. The rain, the thunder, the dripping forest, everything dropped away, leaving only the too loud sound of my heartbeat and the sharp, assessing way he studied my face, like he recognized me, like he'd been waiting for me. Ridiculous thought. I shoved it down. "You're freezing," he said finally, voice softer now. But there was a strange roughness around the edges, like he was holding something back. "We're not far from my cabin. There's a storm rolling in for real. You won't make it down the mountain like this." I almost laughed. The situation had a surreal, dreamlike quality. Car wreck, monster on the road, mysterious mountain man with eyes that glowed like embers offering me shelter in the woods. Every cautionary tale I'd ever been told screamed at me. Stranger danger, isolated cabin, no cell service. But when I glanced at the road, my stomach dropped. The car had slid off the shoulder and into a shallow ditch, nose buried in mud. The nearest town was at least 30 miles back. Through the teeth of a storm, my entire body ached. My head throbbed in time with the thunder, and underneath the fear, there was this inexplicable pull. Not just because he'd saved me, something else. My gaze caught on his throat where water tracked over a faint scar leading under his collar. His shirt clung to muscles that moved with controlled, predatory grace. Predatory. The word sent a chill down my spine that had nothing to do with the rain. As if hearing my thoughts, he said, "You don't have to trust me. Just trust that you don't have better options right now." There was a wry twist to his mouth that might have almost been a smile, if not for the tension coiled in his shoulders. Lightning flashed again, and for a heartbeat, his eyes flared brighter, molten and inhuman. I blinked, and they were normal, a strange, mesmerizing gold, but human. I told myself I'd imagine the rest. "What's your name?" I managed. His jaw flexed. He hesitated, and for some irrational reason, that made my heart beat faster. "Rowan," he said at last. The way he said it felt like a concession, or a warning. "And you?" "Mara." My voice shook on the single word. His fingers tightened briefly on my arm, as if the sound of my name did something to him. His nostrils flared, drawing in the air between us. For a moment, he didn't look away, and the storm quieted to a distant roar behind my pulse. "Right," he said hoarsely, releasing me too quickly, like he'd touched a live wire. "Mara, can you walk?" I nodded, even though I wasn't sure. Pride was a stubborn, stupid thing. I pushed to my feet, and the world tilted. His arm shot out, steadying me. Heat poured off him, seeping through my soaked clothes, chasing the chill from my bones. I couldn't stop the tiny, traitorous way I leaned into that warmth. "We have to move," he murmured, close enough that I could hear the strange cadence of his breathing. Too slow, too controlled. There are things in these woods that like the smell of blood, A shudder crawled up my spine. Things, like bears? His mouth curved humorlessly. Something like that. Another lightning strike split the sky, illuminating the forest. The towering pines, the slick undergrowth, the broken guardrail up on the road. In the distance, just beyond the reach of light, something large shifted between the trees. A hulking shadow, watching. The hair on my neck rose. I opened my mouth to ask, to demand an explanation. But when I looked back at Rowan, his gaze wasn't on the woods. It was on me, sharp and conflicted, heat and warning tangled together. "Stay close," he said, his tone brooking no argument. "And whatever you hear out there, don't run." "Why not?" He held my eyes for a long, unsettling second. Rain kissed my cheeks. That wild scent wrapped around us both, stronger now, like the forest itself was breathing through him. "Because," he said quietly, "it makes the wolves chase harder." Somewhere in the darkness, a howl rose, low, terrible, and heartbreakingly lonely. It echoed through the trees, threading into my bones. Rowan's jaw clenched. His gold eyes flashed, and for the first time, it occurred to me that whatever had been on the road might not be the only monster on this mountain tonight. Chapter 2. The Cabin in the Teeth of the Storm. The trek through the woods felt like a fever dream. Rain blurred the world into smears of gray and shadow, the wind worrying the trees until they creaked like old bones. The mud sucked at my shoes, every step sending a dull throb through my ribs. Rowan moved ahead of me, a dark, solid presence carving a path through the undergrowth, like he belonged to it. "Watch your step," he said over his shoulder. "There are roots everywhere." "I noticed," I muttered, stumbling as one caught my toe. My hand shot out, fingers gripping the back of his damp shirt to keep from face-planting. Heat. Even through soaked fabric, he was warm, far too warm for someone drenched in freezing rain. For a second, I clung to him, my forehead brushing between his shoulder blades. The contact was accidental, desperate. But something in my chest reacted like I'd stepped too close to a fire. I jerked my hand back. "Sorry," I blurted. "I'm fine." He half turned, the movement fluid. The rain caught in his hair and eyelashes, turning them into dark spikes. Those eyes, unreal, burnished gold even in the gloom, searched my face. "You're not fine," he said, voice low. "You're concussed, shaken, and bleeding. But you're on your feet, and that's what matters for now." The blunt assessment should have annoyed me. Instead, it grounded me. No fake sympathy, no hand-wringing, just facts. I clung to them. "Charming bedside manner," I said. His mouth twitched, the ghost of a smile tugging at one corner. "You're talking back. That's a good sign." Lightning forked across the sky, briefly turning the world to stark black and white. For an instant, the skin at the nape of my neck prickled like static. I glanced over my shoulder. Nothing but trees, bent under the weight of the storm. Still, I could swear we were being watched. "That wolf," I said, raising my voice to be heard over the wind. "Or whatever it was. Is it still out here?" Rowan's shoulders tightened almost imperceptibly. "It won't bother you now." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I'm giving you until you're somewhere safe." My temper flickered, too fragile to fully ignite. "You can't just—" A branch cracked to our right, too close, too heavy to be the wind. We both froze. The forest held its breath. Rowan moved first, stepping subtly in front of me. his body a barrier between me and that sound. Every line of him sharpened, attention flipping outward. It was like watching a switch being pulled. One moment, dangerously calm man. The next, something else. Not animal, not exactly, but hyper-aware in a way no normal human should be, his head tilting as if catching frequencies I couldn't hear. His nostrils flared, drawing in the damp air. The motion was small, almost insignificant, but I felt it like a jolt. "Stay behind me," he murmured. My heart thudded hard enough to hurt. What is it? Rain pattered through the leaves, dripping from the branches in steady beats. No more cracking, no more movement. Just that thick, swollen silence that hangs right before something bad happens. Then Rowan relaxed, fractionally. The tension in his shoulders didn't fully disappear, but it shifted, like he'd filed the threat away for later. "Deer," he said shortly. "They come close when it storms." I squinted into the trees. I couldn't see a damn thing beyond the next couple of trunks. "You can tell that from one sound?" "I grew up here," he replied, starting forward again. "The forest talks. You learn the language if you want to live. The forest talks." Normal people didn't say things like that without irony, but there was no mocking in his tone. Just simple fact, delivered like a man who had spent a lifetime listening. We walked in silence after that, my shoes squelching with every step, my brain throbbing in dull waves. The scent of him clung to the air between us, smoke and pine, and something rich and dark I couldn't name. It wrapped around the ache in my chest, easing it in a way that made no sense. I kept catching myself breathing deeper, as if my body were trying to drink him in. "Get a grip," I told myself. "You almost died. Your ex might be hunting you down, and you're fixating on the way a woodsman smells. Very healthy, Mara." We rounded a thick stand of firs, and suddenly the trees broke, opening onto a small clearing. A cabin crouched at its center, lights glowing dimly through rain-streaked windows like tired eyes. Smoke curled from a stone chimney, smeared by the wind. Relief punched through me so sharply I swayed. Shelter. Warmth. Walls. I hadn't realized how tight I'd been wound until that moment. Rowan veered up the short path to the door, boots crunching on gravel. I followed, shivering uncontrollably now that we'd stopped moving. The storm felt louder here somehow, the wind threading around the cabin, making the timber creak in complaint. He pushed the door open without fumbling for keys. It groaned like it had been doing this for decades. "After you," he said, stepping aside. The warmth hit me first, thick and immediate, washing over my frozen skin like a touch. The air held the scent of wood smoke, old paper, and something herbal, like dried sage. I stepped inside on unsteady legs. The cabin was bigger than it looked from the outside. One large room opened up in front of me, dominated by a stone fireplace on the far wall, where flames licked at thick logs. A worn leather couch faced it, draped with a dark wool blanket. Shelves lined one side, filled with books and jars. The kitchen was a compact corner of weathered cabinets and a sturdy wooden table scarred with use. Lived in, not staged. "You can sit," Rowan said, closing the door behind us with a solid thunk that cut the storm's roar in half. My body heard him before my brain did. I stumbled toward the couch and sank onto it, every muscle loosening at once. The heat from the fire seeped through my clothes, making the pain flare before it started to ease. Rowan moved with efficient purpose. Boots, often 2 quick jerks. jacket shrugged off and tossed over the back of a chair. He crossed the room to the shelves, grabbed a first aid kit, then detoured to the kitchen to fill a mug with steaming water from a kettle that had apparently been left on low. I watched him like I couldn't not. The way his shoulders filled out his shirt, the easy strength in his hands, the precise economy of his movements, like everything he did had been practiced 1,000 times. Why was the kettle already hot? I asked, because questions were easier to focus on than pain, or him. He glanced at me, one dark brow lifting. Storm was brewing. I was awake. So you just sit around in your cabin listening to the forest talk. He huffed something that might have been a laugh. Something like that. He came over with the kit and the mug, kneeling on the rug in front of me. It put his face level with mine. Too close and somehow not close enough. The fire painted his skin in shades of gold and shadow, bringing out faint lines at the corners of his eyes, like he'd done more frowning than smiling in his life. "Drink," he said, offering the mug. I accepted it automatically. The ceramic was blessedly warm against my cold fingers. I lifted it to my lips and inhaled. Chamomile. Honey. Something sharp and unfamiliar underneath. "You drugging me?" I asked skeptically. "If I were, you wouldn't taste it." He opened the kit. "It's just tea. The other stuff is for shock. Other stuff is vague." "Do you always argue this much when people save your life?" I blushed, heat flooding my face. "Sorry. I've had a bad run with trusting people." His hands stilled for the briefest moment. When he looked up, something new flickered in his gaze. Interest, sharp and unsettling. "Someone hurt you," he said quietly. Not a question. That's usually what bad run implies, yeah. He held my eyes for a beat longer, then nodded once, as if filing the information somewhere important. "No drugs," he repeated, "but you could use something warm." "What about you?" I asked before I could stop myself. "You're soaked," he shrugged. "I run hot." I almost choked on the tea. Run hot. Understatement of the century. He reached up, his fingers gentle as he tilted my face toward the firelight. "I need to look at your head." Instinct protested, my body remembering other hands, other times I'd been held in place and hurt. My muscles tensed, my grip tightened around the mug. He felt it. His gaze flicked down, reading the whites of my knuckles, the line of my jaw. Slowly, like approaching a wild animal, he eased his fingers away, palms open, showing me the empty space between us. "I won't touch you if you don't want me to," he said, voice softer than I'd heard it yet. The rough edges smoothed, revealing something raw beneath. "You're safe here. No one gets to you without going through me." The conviction in that last sentence made something in my chest go fragile and sharp. No one had ever promised that before. Not, and meant it. "Okay," I whispered, surprising myself. "You can just be careful." He nodded once and tried again. His touch barely there as he brushed wet hair back from my forehead. His fingers were calloused, but he handled me like I was breakable. The pads of his thumbs were warm against my temples. That scent of wild and smoke wrapped around us, thicker now, like being under a weighted blanket. I exhaled slowly, tension bleeding out of me. "Cut's not deep," he murmured, eyes scanning the wound. His breath ghosted across my face. "You'll have a hell of a bruise. Some swelling. Pupils look even, though." "You do this often?" I asked, nerves making me chatty. "Patch up random strangers who crash outside your cabin? His mouth curved ruefully. More often than you'd think. These roads aren't forgiving. Something in his tone said that wasn't the whole truth. I caught it, the way my ear had learned to catch shifts in Matt's voice before the explosion. But where Matt's changes had meant danger, Rowan's meant secrets. I wasn't sure which was worse. He cleaned the cut with deft care, the sting making me wince. He murmured a quiet apology, so soft I almost missed it. His thumb brushed my cheekbone once, an absent-minded motion that felt like more than it should have. "You're lucky," he said finally, taping a small bandage in place. "I don't feel lucky. You're alive." His gaze snagged on mine, intense and steady. "That's not nothing." Our faces were inches apart now. I could see faint flecks of a darker color around his pupils, like ink bleeding into amber. The firelight threw a glow into his eyes that made them seem almost luminescent. "Thank you," I said, the words small but heavy. "If you hadn't been there—" His jaw clenched. A shadow moved behind his eyes. I was there. The way he said it made a weird chill slide through me. "Why were you there?" I asked slowly. "Middle of the night, in a storm, on a road that doesn't see much traffic. That's convenient." He studied me for a moment. "Suspicious?" "Cautious," I corrected. "There's a difference. That's good." His gaze dropped briefly to my mouth, then snapped back to my eyes like he'd caught himself. "You should be cautious." "Of you." The question slipped out before I could stop it. His lashes lowered, shadowing his expression. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Especially of me." The fire popped, startling me. I swallowed, my throat suddenly dry. "You didn't answer," I pressed. "Why were you on the road?" He exhaled slowly, a long breath that seemed to scrape out of him. "I heard the crash." "From where?" "Far enough." "That's not how sound works, Rowan." His eyes flicked up, a spark of irritation, or was it amusement, lighting in them. "Sound works differently in storms." "That's not an answer either." "It's the only one I have that you'll accept right now." I stared at him, frustration gnawing at the edges of my fear. "You're very good at saying things that sound like explanations and aren't. And you're very good at poking at closed doors. Maybe I need to know what's on the other side before I decide if I'm staying." Something like pain flickered across his face, quick and unguarded. "You're not staying," he said too fast. "Just until the storm passes. Then I'll get your car towed, and you'll be on your way." The words landed in my chest with a strange, hollow thud. I reminded myself that this was good. Safer. Temporary was safe. Temporary meant no expectations, no leverage. Still, a tiny irrational part of me protested. "You sound very sure about that," I said carefully. "I am." He rose to his feet in one fluid motion, putting distance between us. The room immediately felt colder. "I'll get you something dry to wear. You'll make yourself worse sitting in those wet clothes." He turned away before I could respond, crossing to a wooden chest near the stairs that led to a small loft. His shoulders were tight again, hands moving with unnecessary precision as he rummaged. I stared at his back, questions swarming. He'd rescued me without hesitation, brought me to the only safe place for miles, promised no one would hurt me here. But he'd said you're not staying like it was the most important rule in the world, like he couldn't risk it. Lightning flashed through the window, and for a split second, his reflection shone in the glass. Tall, powerful, head bowed. Behind him, in that same instant of light, I saw something impossible. the outline of a massive wolf where he stood, shadow overlapping his human form. I blinked, heart stuttering. The next flash showed only Rowan, human and solid and real. Concussion, I told myself. Shock. My brain misfiring. But when he turned back, arms loaded with a folded shirt and sweats, his gaze met mine, and held too long. There was a wildness at the edges now, barely leashed. "Here," he said gruffly, placing the clothes on the arm of the couch. "There's a bathroom through that door." He nodded toward a narrow hallway. "Use the towels. Take your time." "Rowan," I said, stopping him as he started to move away. He paused, shoulders tense, but didn't turn fully. "Yeah?" My voice came out softer than I intended. "You said there are things out there that like the smell of blood. Are we really safe in here?" He looked back at me then, and whatever he'd been trying to hide burned through. Old grief. Grim determination. Something fiercely possessive that made my pulse jump. "Yes," he said, "we are. Nothing that hunts in these woods is stupid enough to cross my threshold. How can you be so sure?" His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile, more like the memory of a snarl. "Because Mara." He hesitated. For a heartbeat, it felt like the whole cabin leaned in, waiting. "I'm the thing they're afraid of." The fire popped again, sending a shower of sparks up the chimney. The wind howled around the cabin like something denied. And for the first time since I'd met him, I believed entirely that Rowan was far more dangerous than anything outside. I just wasn't sure yet whether that meant I should run or stay closer. Chapter 3. The Pull of the Wolf. The bathroom door clicked shut behind me, sealing out the world, or trying to. Even here, with the muffled roar of the storm pressing against the cabin walls, I felt Rowan's presence like a heat source on the other side of the thin wood. I sagged against the sink, breath shaky. My reflection stared back from the dim mirror, wet hair plastered to my cheeks, a smear of dried blood at my temple, eyes too wide. Haunted. "You're not staying," he'd said, like a warning, like a promise. I should have felt relieved. Instead, the words hollowed something out inside me. "You're projecting," I told myself. "He saved you. He's being responsible. You're injured. You're desperate. Your brain is latching onto the first solid thing it can find. And Rowan was very, very solid." The hot shower sent ribbons of steam curling around me. Every muscle unwound, but the heat didn't fully chase away the cold in my bones, or the phantom imprint of his hands on my skin. I kept remembering the way his voice had gone soft when he said I was safe, the way his eyes sharpened when danger approached, the way he'd smelled, wild and warm and wrongly familiar. My pulse tripped over itself. No, not going there. Not again. I wasn't about to confuse survival instinct with attraction. But when I stepped out of the shower and pulled on the clothes he'd given me, the oversized shirt brushing mid-thigh, the sweatpants cinched tight at the waist, I caught another whiff of that scent. His scent. It clung to the fabric like smoke. My stomach flipped. When I opened the bathroom door, the cabin lights had dimmed. Rowan had added another log to the fire, shadows shifting across his face as he crouched beside the hearth. He wasn't wearing his shirt anymore, just a black thermal stretched across his shoulders, wet hair pushed back. His eyes flicked up immediately, tracking me in a way that made the air thicken. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Like I got hit by a forest," I said. A corner of his mouth twitched, the closest thing to humor I'd seen from him. But then his expression sobered. eyes sweeping over me with a focus that wasn't quite clinical, wasn't quite personal, somewhere in the charged space between. "You should sit," he said. "Head injuries can turn bad fast." "Okay, but what about you?" He blinked. "What about me?" "You're soaked. You're freezing. You rescued me, dragged me out of a wreck, walked through a storm, and you're worrying about me?" The response was immediate, automatic. "I don't get cold." "You keep saying that." "Because it's true." I frowned. "Nobody doesn't get cold." His jaw flexed. "I do." "Why?" Rowan stared at me, golden eyes flickering like something behind them moved, something restless, something sharp. "Because," he said quietly, "I'm built different." I waited for more. He didn't give it. Instead, he stood and crossed the room, adding distance, always with the distance. "Come here," he said, gesturing to the blanket on the couch. "You need heat, and the fire's the best place for that." I hesitated only a moment. My ribs ached, my head throbbed, and something about this man, his steadiness, his focus, kept tugging me toward him even when my brain hissed warnings. When I sat, pulling the blanket around my shoulders, he kept a measured distance on the other end of the couch. Not close enough to touch. Close enough that his presence pressed against me like a second heartbeat. He stared into the fire for a long moment. I stared at him. The shadows carved hard lines along his cheekbones, his jaw rough with stubble. His wet hair curled slightly where it brushed the nape of his neck. There was something carved from old stone about him. A weight, an age, a sadness. "Rowan," I said softly. He didn't look at me. You said earlier that nothing would cross your threshold, that things out there fear you." Silence stretched. He didn't flinch, didn't move, but something in the air tightened, like a bowstring pulled too far. "I did," he said. "What did you mean by that?" Exactly what it sounded like. That's not an answer. His golden eyes cut to mine then, and the look in them stole the breath from my lungs. Not anger, not annoyance. Something darker, something edged with warning. "You're hurt," he said quietly. "Your body is in shock. You don't need the truth yet." The truth. He said it like a burden, like a curse. "Then when?" I whispered. "When you're stronger." My pulse fluttered. "You think I can't handle it?" His gaze dragged over me. Slow, deliberate, like it wasn't entirely under his control. "I don't know," he murmured. "You're not what I expected." A tremor ran through me that had nothing to do with the cold. "Expected." He looked away, jaw working. Forget I said that. "No." I leaned slightly forward. "Tell me what that means." "It doesn't matter." "It matters to me." His eyes flicked back, frustration crackling like static. "Mara," he said, voice low. "Let it go." I should've. I didn't. "What are you?" I asked. The question landed between us like a spark. Something in him stilled entirely. Breath, muscles, expression. Then, "You don't want that answer. How do you know what I want?" Rowan inhaled sharply, nostrils flaring, and then his voice dropped to a rough whisper. "Because I can smell it on you." I froze. My heartbeat stuttered. "What does that mean?" He dragged a hand over his jaw, as if debating something with himself. His breathing was too slow again, too controlled. The flames popped, sending sparks up the chimney. "Attraction," he said finally, each syllable forced out. "Fear, curiosity. I can smell it on you." My breath caught. "That's not possible." He didn't blink. "It is." I stared at him, heat crawling up my neck. Attraction. God. I hoped he was misreading something. Or all of it. Because how humiliating would it be if this stranger, this dangerous, impossible man, could smell my confusion, my pulse, I swallowed hard. Do you always talk like this to people you rescue? No. A muscle jumped in his jaw. Just you. The room felt suddenly too small, too warm. I don't believe you, I whispered. You will. His voice was a promise, or a threat, or both. The wind howled against the cabin, rattling the windows. Somewhere outside, something moved, light, quick, skittering across the forest floor. Rowan went rigid. His attention snapped toward the door, eyes flashing in the firelight with a glow that wasn't human. Every line of him sharpened again, predatory, listening with that uncanny stillness. What is it? I whispered. He lifted a hand in a subtle motion for silence. A heartbeat. Another. Then a long, low howl rose through the storm, closer than before, too close. My blood went cold. Rowan growled, actually growled, low and deep and dangerous. The sound vibrated through the floorboards. He rose to his feet in one fluid motion. Stay here. What's out there? He didn't turn. Something that shouldn't be. Rowan. He looked back then, and for one terrifying, breathtaking heartbeat, I saw the truth. His pupils had blown wide, swallowing the gold. His teeth were sharper, his posture wrong. His voice, when he spoke, scraped like it had two layers, one human, one beast. Do not open that door, he growled, no matter what you hear. My heart slammed against my ribs. Rowan, wait. But he was already moving toward the cabin door, every step a silent, lethal prowl. When his hand closed around the doorknob, the storm outside roared louder, as if the entire forest were reacting to him. The last thing I saw before he slipped into the night was the faint shimmer of something spreading under his skin, like his muscles were shifting, bones realigning, a monster trying to surface. I shot to my feet, blanket falling to the floor. Rowan! But the door slammed behind him, and I was alone in the cabin with the fire, the storm, and the echo of that impossible growl still humming in my bones. Chapter 4. The Monster. Outside. The moment Rowan disappeared into the storm, the cabin changed. The air tightened, the fire hissed as if shrinking from something unseen, and the shadows stretched in strange, wary angles. My pulse hammered loud enough to drown the rain. I stood frozen near the couch, heart rattling in my bruised ribs. Don't open the door, he'd said. His voice had been wrong. Two-toned, guttural, not human. Another howl rolled through the woods, closer now, vibrating the windows in their frames. I wrapped my arms around myself, fingers digging into the borrowed shirt. The fabric smelled like him. Warm smoke, pine, that wild thing my body reacted to before my mind could catch up. It was grounding, infuriatingly comforting, but it wasn't enough to dull the fear rising like cold water up my spine. Rowan is out there. Not normal, not safe. Something more. Something dangerous. The fire popped violently, throwing sparks. I jumped, my breath catching. Get it together, Mara, I whispered. Panicking won't help him. But what would help him? What do you do when a man with glowing eyes and half-wolf anatomy goes out into a storm to confront a monster? Nothing. A sane person would do nothing. Unfortunately, sanity and I had only a casual relationship these days. I paced to the door, stopping inches from it. The wood felt alive, humming faintly with the force of the storm, or maybe with something else. Something predatory brushing the edges of my awareness. I pressed my ear against it. At first, only the wind. Then, a rumble, a snarl, a crash, something heavy slamming into a tree. My body reacted before thought. Rowan. I grabbed the doorknob on instinct, twisting. The metal seared my palm. I yelped and stumbled back. The knob was scorching hot. Not physically. No obvious heat. But some kind of invisible pressure shoved my hand away, like static turned violent. It left my skin tingling, not burned but warned. A boundary. A ward. A barrier meant to keep things, including me, inside. No one crosses my threshold, Rowan had said. Had he meant nothing can enter. Or I can't leave. My chest tightened. I grabbed one of the wool blankets from the couch and wrapped it around myself like armor. Then I moved to the window, careful to stay out of direct view. The glass was fogged from the fire's heat, rain streaking the outside. I wiped a streak clear with trembling fingers. The forest writhed with storm and shadow. Trees bent and swayed violently. A flash of lightning split the dark, and for one brief heartbeat, I saw movement. Something fast. Something huge. A blur of dark fur lunging through the trees. Another shape collided with it. Larger. Heavier. The impact cracking across the clearing like a gunshot. I staggered backward. My pulse lurched. Oh my God! They were fighting. 2 creatures. Wolves, but impossibly big. One nearly twice the size of the other. Fur dark as midnight. Muscles rippling like shadows made flesh. The larger one, Rowan. It had to be him. The sight stole breath from my lungs. Even monstrous, even impossible I felt him. That same wild heat. That scent that clung to my bones. He moved with terrifying precision. A predator born of nightmare and myth. The other wolf was smaller but faster. Light fur streaked with mud. Eyes flashing a feral red in the stormlight. It darted under Rowan's swipe. Teeth snapping at his leg. Rowan snarled. An enormous, earth-shaking sound that rattled my ribs even from inside. He slammed the smaller wolf sideways, pinning it against a fallen log. I couldn't look away. Fear and awe twisted together until I couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. Another flash of lightning. The smaller wolf wriggled free, latching onto Rowan's shoulder with a sickening crunch. No! My hand slapped the window glass. Rowan roared, shaking violently until the wolf was flung off. The creature skidded through mud, scrambling upright. Blood streaked Rowan's dark fur, rain washing it down in rivulets. He limped for half a second, half a heartbeat, then lunged again with brutal force. This time, he slammed the smaller wolf to the ground and held it there, teeth bared inches from its throat. The other wolf whimpered, a chilling, desperate sound. Thunder rolled over the mountain. The storm paused, like it was holding its breath. Through the window, I could feel the tension snap taut. Rowan's massive body hovered above his defeated opponent, shaking with fury, purpose, something primal I couldn't name. He should have killed it. Every instinct, every rule of predator and prey demanded it, but he didn't. His head lifted, slowly, eyes burning gold even through the storm. He was looking at the cabin, at me. My breath caught. Rowan released the smaller wolf, shoving it away with a snarl that carried warning and ownership. The creature limped into the trees, tail tucked, disappearing into the storm. Rowan stood alone in the clearing, massive, trembling rain flattening his dark fur. And then he staggered, collapsed onto his front paws, let out a low, pained whine that tore through me. Rowan. I didn't think, didn't weigh danger, didn't remember his order not to leave. I spun from the window and grabbed the blanket tighter around myself. My body moved on instinct, guided by fear or something deeper. Something pulling. Faded. The word flickered behind my ribs like a struck match. I ran for the door, hand outstretched. But this time, the invisible force didn't shove me back. The knob was warm, but not blistering. The barrier, whatever it was, had weakened. Or Rowan had allowed it. I flung the door open and stumbled onto the porch. Wind slapped my face. Rain soaked me instantly through Rowan's clothes. "Rowan!" I shouted into the storm. He lifted his head, slow, heavy. Dragon Slayer eyes burning into me across the distance. The sight hit me like a physical blow. As a wolf, he was breathtaking and terrifying and impossibly familiar, like some buried part of me recognized him before I did. I took one step down the stairs. Another. Mud soaked the cuffs of my borrowed sweats. He pushed himself onto unsteady legs. A deep, rumbling sound vibrated the air, half growl, half warning. "Don't," I whispered, throat tightening. "Don't tell me not to come." He lowered his head, ears flattening. His massive body shook. Lightning cracked overhead again, and in that white-hot flash, his form rippled, contorting under the skin. Bones shifting, fur retracting, muscles twisting. He collapsed onto the mud with a muffled cry, and when the thunder rolled away, Rowan lay there, human again, naked, bleeding, shaking. I gasped, stumbling the last few steps toward him. "Rowan!" He lifted his head, eyes bright with pain, and something else. Something like fury and need and fear tangled into one. "Get back," he rasped. His voice was ragged, shredded by the shift. "No." I dropped to my knees beside him. "I'm not leaving you." A snarl pulled from his chest, not at me, but at something inside him. He braced a bloody hand against the ground. "Mara." His voice shook. "You don't understand. I can't control." He cut off with a groan as another tremor racked him. His fingers dug furrows in the mud. He hunched lower, jaw clenched as if fighting the monster inside. Heat rolled off him in waves, scorching the freezing air around us. The blankets slipped from my shoulders, pooling around both of us. I cupped his face, my hands trembling. "Look at me," I whispered. "Just look at me." He did, and everything changed. The fury in his eyes softened, the gold deepened, the shaken eased, just enough for him to breathe. "Mara." My name came out like a vow, like an apology, like a confession. I swallowed hard. "You came back." "I always will," he murmured, voice raw. He leaned into my touch, forehead pressing against my palm, as if seeking anchor. Even if I shouldn't. Why? Lightning lit the sky again. His pupils blew wide. The answer tore out of him. "Because you're mine." My heart stopped. The storm swallowed everything but us. But then, his expression twisted in agony. "Too soon," he choked. "You're not supposed to know." "Not yet." I tightened my hands on him. "Rowan." "Mara. Run," he whispered, horror filling his eyes. "Please, before I lose the last of my control." But I didn't run. I pulled him closer, and the storm howled around us as the world shifted beneath our feet. Chapter 5. The shadow of the Bond Rowan's warning, "Run before I lose control," should have sent me scrambling back to the cabin. It didn't. I was kneeling in the mud, hands cupping his too hot face, storm soaking us both to the bone, and every rational thought was drowned under the instinct screaming at me not to leave him. Not when he was hurting. Not when he was fighting something inside him. Not when he'd looked at me like that. Like he knew me down to my bones. Lightning illuminated his features again, carving the angles of his jaw, the tension in his neck, the raw, torn panic in his eyes. "Mara," he ground out, breath shuddering as another tremor rolled through him. "You don't understand. There are rules, laws, bonds." My heart hammered. "Then tell me." "I can't." His voice cracked, not without making it worse. "Worse than you bleeding in a storm." "Worse," he whispered. His fingers curled in the mud, knuckles bone white. "If you stay this close, if I lose control, the bond will snap fully into place. You'll be marked, claimed." Something hot and electric slid down my spine at the word claimed. I hated that it thrilled me as much as it terrified me. "What bond?" I asked softly. Stormwind whipped his hair across his forehead. His chest heaved. Every breath looked painful. Lightning cast the forest in brief flashes of silver, and Rowan's pupils dilated until the gold around them was only a ring. "Please," he rasped, "just step back." But when I tried to pull away, something in me wrenched, like invisible claws sinking into my sternum. The pain was sharp, sudden, breath-stealing. "Ah!" I gasped, hand flying to my chest. Rowan choked on a sound, half snarl, half plea, and grabbed my wrist before I could collapse. "Damn it." His voice was ragged. "You feel it already." What is that?" I hissed through clenched teeth. "The pull," he whispered, horror thick in his tone. "It's the mating pull. It shouldn't have triggered yet. Not like this. Not without a mark." Cold washed through me, even as the heat of his skin burned against my palm. "Mating?" The word barely scraped out. As in wolf," he said, voice gutted. "As in fated. As in forever." I stared at him, heart stumbling over itself, heat and disbelief crashing into me like waves in a storm. "No," I whispered. "That's not... Rowan, we just met." His grip tightened around my wrist as another tremor hit him, body bowing forward. "I know," he growled. "I know. It wasn't supposed to be you." Something in me cracked at that. "Wasn't supposed to..." My breath hitched. "What's wrong with me?" His eyes snapped open, burning fiercely. "Nothing," he hissed, voice suddenly sharp. "Don't ever say that. There's nothing wrong with you." He struggled upright, using my wrist as leverage, his breath harsh and uneven. "What's wrong," he gasped, "is me." Another tremor tore through him. He jerked as if something inside wanted out. His muscles rippled under his skin in unnatural waves. I caught his shoulders before he face-planted back into the mud. "Rowan!" He shook his head violently. "You need to go," he growled. "Before I shift again." "You just shifted back." "And I can shift again," he snarled. "When the bond activates early, when the wolf recognizes its mate, control becomes impossible." I froze. The storm disappeared. Everything disappeared. "Mate?" I whispered. He closed his eyes like he was in agony. Yes. The word was a blade, a confession, a promise, a curse. "I'm your mate." My voice trembled. "But you said you didn't choose..." "We don't choose," he said, eyes snapping open, blazing with a wild, wounded honesty. "The wolf chooses. Our souls choose. Our blood chooses." My breathing went uneven. Too fast. Too shallow. He sucked in a sharp breath. "Stop that." "Stop what?" Panicking. His eyes squeezed shut. "Your heartbeat, it's too fast. I can hear it. I can feel it. It's making it worse. Making me want to..." He cut himself off with a growl, the sound vibrating through me. "What do you want?" I whispered before I could stop myself. His eyes opened, slowly, darkly, and what looked back at me was not fully human. "You," he said, voice shredded. "Every instinct in me wants to pull you close, bite you, mark you, Claim you. Heat flooded my cheeks. My stomach twisted. But, he choked, teeth lengthening slightly before he forced them back. If I do, I damn you. My curse becomes yours. My enemies become yours. My pack will hunt you, and the wolf will own you in ways you can't begin to understand. A sharp, cold wind sliced between us. He hunched lower, trembling violently. I won't do that to you, he whispered. Not without your consent. Not without you choosing it. My heart twisted painfully. You think I would choose that? His laugh was a broken sound. No. Something in my chest clenched at the defeat in that single word. He believed he was unworthy. He believed he was dangerous. He believed I'd run if I knew him fully. But when I looked at him, bleeding, shaking, fighting himself to protect me, running felt like the one thing I couldn't do. I touched his cheek, lightly, carefully. He flinched, but didn't pull away. Rowan, I breathed, I'm not leaving you here. You should. I won't. You don't understand what you're saying. Then make me understand. His gaze locked with mine, something ancient rising behind the gold. The storm raged around us, lightning turning his pain-ravaged silhouette into something mythic. Mara, he said, voice barely human. I am cursed. My pack wants me dead. The hunters want me chained. And the wolf inside me, he swallowed hard, it wants you more than it wants to breathe. My pulse faltered. He leaned forward until his forehead touched mine, the heat of him overwhelming, grounding, terrifying. Every breath he exhaled shook through my bones. You are the last person who should be near me, he whispered. And yet, you are the only one I can't turn away from. My chest tightened, emotion rising like a tide. Rowan. His fingers twitched toward my jaw, stopped, then slowly curled into a fist against his thigh instead. He was holding himself back with everything he had. Lightning cracked above us, bright as noon. Rowan flinched violently, and then collapsed fully, strength giving out. I caught him under the shoulders, grunting under his weight. Rowan, come on, I whispered fiercely. Stay with me. Don't you dare pass out. His head lolled against my shoulder. His breath was hot against my ear. Inside, I muttered, bracing my legs. I have to get you inside. I hooked his arm around my neck and tried to stand. Every muscle protested, my ribs screaming in agony. But I didn't stop. Couldn't. The mating pull, or whatever it was, dragged at me like gravity, like a thread woven between our ribs. Leaving him out here felt like tearing my own heart out. I got him halfway upright, staggering toward the cabin. His weight pressed along my side, heavy, hot, too intimate, too much. Mara, he slurred, voice low and wrecked. Don't let me hurt you. You won't, I said through gritted teeth. Just help me get you inside. He made a faint, pained sound, half laugh, half groan. You're stubborn. You're bleeding everywhere. Call it even. One step, another. My body screamed. The cabin porch loomed like salvation. The open door spilled firelight across the rain-slick earth. Almost there, I breathed. Just a little more. The moment my foot hit the first stair, something shifted. Not outside. Inside me. A heat unfurled low in my gut, spreading outward like wildfire. It wasn't mine. It was his. His need. His pain. His instinct clawing for me through the bond we weren't supposed to have. The moment I acknowledged it, Rowan's breath hitched against my neck. He shuddered, grip tightening involuntarily around my waist. Mara, he groaned, almost a plea. Get me away from you before I... Before the wolf. I didn't stop, didn't listen, didn't let myself think. Too late, I whispered, pulling him across the threshold. I'm already here. And as the door shut behind us, sealing us in the warm glow of the fire, the bond snapped tight again, painfully, beautifully, Rowan's body collapsing fully into mine, and everything changed. Chapter 6. The wolf at the door. Rowan collapsed the moment the cabin door thudded shut behind us. His full weight dragged me down to my knees, the blanket tangling around our legs as we hit the wooden floor. The fire's heat washed over us, too warm after the freezing storm outside, making my head swim. Rowan, Rowan, stay awake, I whispered, trying to shift him onto his back. He groaned, a low, pained sound that vibrated through my bones. Come on, help me here. His eyes cracked open. Gold, too bright, too wild, burned through the dim room. Shouldn't be near you, he rasped. Should have run. Yeah, well, I muttered, breath shaking. I don't always do what I'm told. He let out a choked huff that might have been a laugh. Then another violent tremor ripped through him, his hand slamming against the floorboards hard enough to rattle the nearby shelf. I grabbed his wrist instinctively. Hey, Rowan, I need you to slow down. You're bleeding like crazy. No, he gasped. Not blood loss. It's the shift. The bond. Too close. Too soon. His fingers curled around mine before he could stop himself. Heat seared my skin where he touched. A pulse of something electric shot up my arm and punched through my ribs. I sucked in a breath. He did too. And for a heartbeat, everything in the cabin changed. The air tightened. The fire crackled brighter. The bond, whatever it was, swelled between us like a living thing. Rowan's pupils thinned. His chest heaved. His grip tightened until his knuckles whitened. Mara, he ground out, voice scraping the edge of human. Let go. I swallowed hard. I'm not hurting you. You're... He cut off with a growl as his spine arched, tendons standing out along his neck. You're making it worse. What does that even mean? He forced his eyes open, pinning me with a look so intense it felt like it cut straight into my bloodstream. It means, he rasped, that if you don't step away from me, I won't be able to stop myself from... His body jerked, breath ripping out of him. From taking the mark. My lips parted. The mark. His teeth elongated again. Barely, but enough to see under the firelight. The bite, he said, voice thick with regret and want and terror. The bond mark. The claiming mark. Heat shot through me so fast it made me dizzy. That was insane. That was not a normal reaction. But the pull inside my chest yanked taut in answer, like some invisible thread tied between our hearts, was begging to be acknowledged. That's not happening, I whispered, more to steady myself than him. You're hurt. You're shaking. You're barely conscious. That's exactly why you need to move. He tried to push away from me, tried to crawl backward across the floor. His limbs shook, useless with exhaustion and pain. I grabbed his shoulders, pushing him gently but firmly onto his back. The moment I touched him, he gasped. I gasped. Heat exploded through our centers like a flare. His head slammed back against the floor, eyes rolling shut for a second. When they opened again, there was no mistaking it. The wolf was right under his skin, and it wanted me. Mara. His voice was ragged. You don't know what you're doing. I'm helping you. You're killing me. I froze. His chest rose and fell in sharp, shallow breaths. He wasn't being dramatic. He meant it. The bond activates differently for cursed wolves, Rowan whispered. If I mark you without your consent, without your choice, it'll destroy you. And me. Then don't, I said softly. His eyes flickered, the gold trembling like flames starved of oxygen. You don't understand. The wolf doesn't care what I want. He gritted his teeth as another tremor hit. And when you touch me, it hears you, smells you, feels you. His hand clamped around my wrist again, but this time, not to push me away, to anchor himself, to stay grounded, to stay human. Please, he whispered, let go. I didn't. I couldn't, because something else was happening. Beneath the fear, beneath the bond, beneath the bruised pain throbbing in my ribs. Rowan was shaking violently, too violently. His skin burned under my palm. His heartbeat stumbled uneven. Rowan, I said softly, pressing my free hand to his cheek. Look at me. He forced his eyes open again. There you go. I brushed wet strands of hair from his forehead. You said you always run hot. Then why do you feel like you're burning alive? His breath stuttered. He tried to turn his head away. I guided it gently back. What's happening to you? He swallowed hard, Adam's apple bobbing. The curse, he whispered. The shift was too fast. The bond triggered too early. What curse? He stared up at me, something ancient and wounded bleeding into his expression. My wolf was never meant to surface again, he rasped. The pack banished me, bound me, cursed me to remain half-shifted, half-human, a threat to them, a danger to everyone. Why? Because an alpha without a pack is a monster. That's not true. It is, he insisted, breath hitching as his body spasmed again. And when the bond snapped toward you, it broke everything holding the wolf back. It's trying to claim you. I'm trying not to let it. He shut his eyes, panting. I'm losing. Panic crashed through me like cold water. What do you need? I whispered, leaning closer without thinking. Tell me what to do. His eyes shot open again, full of warning. Distance. Cold. Anything but this. His gaze dropped to where my hands framed his face. This is killing me. But when I tried to pull my hands away, he made a sound I'll never forget. A broken, desperate noise tearing up from his chest, raw with instinct. His fingers shot up, grabbing mine hard enough to stop me. No, he growled, panicked. Don't. My pulse stuttered. Rowan? He shook his head, eyes wild, torn between instincts. I need... He sucked in a breath. I need you close. But you said... I know what I said, he rasped. But the wolf won't calm unless it knows you're safe. I blinked at him, stunned. You want me near you so you won't hurt me? His expression twisted, pained, frustrated, honest. Yes. Something molten and fragile and terrifying filled my chest. I lowered myself slowly, carefully, until my body hovered above his, keeping most of my weight off him. He let out a shuddered breath, his entire frame easing beneath me, tension bleeding away as I settled near enough for his heat to wrap around me like a blanket. His hand slid up, not grabbing, not claiming, just resting tremblingly on my waist. Mara. His voice softened into something barely audible. Don't be afraid of me. I'm not, I whispered. He exhaled, the sound breaking apart like it cost him everything. Good, he breathed, because I think I'd die if you were. I brushed my fingers over his jaw. His breath hitched. You should rest, I murmured. His eyes fluttered closed for a second, then reopened, heavy-lidded and dazed. I'll hurt you, he whispered. No, I said, touching his cheek gently. You won't. Mara. Yes. His voice dipped lower, rougher. You don't know what I am? Then tell me, I whispered, leaning closer. Tell me the truth." His gaze pinned me with devastating intensity. The gold in his eyes brightened, burned, marked, and when he spoke, his voice shook the room. "I am the last alpha of a dead pack." Lightning split the sky. His grip on my waist tightened. "And you," he whispered, breath hot against my throat, "are the mate fate should never have given me." My breath caught, my heart thundered, and the bond swelled again, undeniable. The cabin seemed to vibrate around us. The fire roared. Rowan trembled beneath me. "Mara," he rasped, chest rising sharply beneath my hands. "If you stay with me tonight, every instinct I have will pull us closer." "I'm not leaving," I whispered. His eyes slammed shut. A soft, pained sound escaped him. "Then I can't protect myself from you." He went still, too still. And then his body sagged entirely. Rowan passed out cold, right in my arms, and the wolf inside him went quiet for the first time. Chapter 7. The Alpha's Awakening. Rowan didn't move for a long time. His breathing steadied, slow and shallow, his feverish heat gradually cooling as the storm outside weakened from a violent roar to a distant grumble. I stayed exactly where I was, half draped over him, blanket tangled around us both, his arm heavy across my waist. It should have felt intrusive, too intimate, too much, but all I felt was quiet, across my nerves, across my heartbeat, across the ragged places inside me I usually tried not to look too closely at. His presence was a strange kind of gravity, a weight that felt steady rather than crushing. And the bond, whatever this connection was, it tugged between us like a silken thread, humming faintly, a whisper under my skin. Not painful now, just there, present, alive. When Rowan finally stirred, the fire had dimmed to glowing embers. His fingers twitched against my hip first, then his breath hitched, then a low rumble vibrated up from his chest. Not a growl, but close. My pulse jumped. His eyes opened, golden, warm and heavy-lidded. For a moment he didn't seem to know where he was. He blinked at the ceiling, then at the flickering hearthlight. Then he felt me. Every muscle in his body went tight at once, not with aggression, with instant, visceral awareness. His gaze snapped to mine so fast I flinched. "Mara." My name was a breath, a rasp, a prayer. He pushed himself upright in one violent motion, dragging me with him before he realized he was doing it. "Are you hurt?" he demanded, voice rough, hands gripping my waist with a force that was just a hair too close to shaking. I had never seen someone look so terrified. "I'm fine," I said softly. His breath left him in a shudder. He released me like he was afraid of burning me, or burning himself. "I shouldn't be this close," he muttered, dragging a hand through his hair. "We shouldn't. This isn't Rowan." He froze, closed his eyes, exhaled slow. "Please don't say my name like that," he whispered. "Why?" His eyes opened again, and the look in them hit me like a physical impact. "Because I don't have the strength to stay away from you when you do." Heat curled through my stomach. A slow, dangerous warmth. He surged to his feet, keeping distance between us, pacing like a caged thing. "You shouldn't have come outside," he said, voice fracturing on the edges. "I told you to stay in the cabin. You were hurt. I am always hurt." His tone sharpened. "I'm cursed, broken, dangerous. I told you, my wolf doesn't differentiate between protecting you and claiming you. And when you touched me..." He broke off, jaw clenching hard. I pushed myself off the floor, ribs protesting, and stood. Slow, careful, like approaching something wild. When I touched you, what? I pressed. His pupils dilated again. He swallowed hard. The wolf recognized you. His voice softened to something rough and helpless, and it nearly took over entirely. I inhaled. Slow, uneven. And you didn't let it, I said. No, he said fiercely, because you didn't choose it, and I will not be the monster who takes a mate without her consent. Something warm and painful bloomed behind my ribs. You keep saying monster like that's what you are, I said quietly, but nothing you've done tonight has been monstrous. He laughed once, humorless, broken. You didn't see the things I've done before tonight. Then show me, I whispered. Tell me. He stopped pacing, turned toward me like he hadn't meant to. Lightning flickered outside, but the storm was retreating now, leaving only faint rain tapping the windows like soft fingertips. Rowan didn't move closer, but he didn't move away either. The pack didn't just banish me, he said finally, voice low. They bound my wolf, cursed him. But curses are unpredictable things. The magic didn't seal him fully. Instead, it made the wolf stronger, wilder, blood-hungry. He looked down at his hands, flexing them as if remembering claws. I was becoming something uncontrollable, something dangerous to them, something they feared. So they drove me out, marked me to die alone. Marked you. His fingers brushed the back of his neck, where I suddenly noticed a faint, raised scar trailing into his hairline. The curse mark, he said, a binding that chains the wolf until a mate bond snaps it in half. My breath froze. So when the bond, it began breaking the mark, he said, faster than I can stop it. And tonight, he said hoarsely, my wolf smelled you, and everything cracked. The truth settled around us like a thick fog, heavy, real, undeniable. He dragged a hand down his face, frustration vibrating off him. You don't understand, he murmured. A mate bond is forever. It is blood and bone and soul. It is need. It is connection. It is hunger. He shook his head once, sharply. And it is deadly when forced. But we didn't force anything, I said. He met my gaze, and the raw longing in his eyes made my knees weaken. No, he admitted, voice barely human. That's the problem. Silence stretched thick and trembling. Then Rowan inhaled, deep, slow, almost pained. I need to know something, he said. What? He stepped closer. 1 step, 2, stopping close enough that I could feel the heat of him. Not touching, but almost. His voice dropped to a whisper. When you came out into the storm, was it because you were afraid for me? Yes, I whispered without hesitation. Something inside him broke. I saw it. In the way his shoulders eased, in the way his breath stuttered, in the way his eyes softened and darkened at the same time. And when you touched me, he murmured, did you feel it too? The pull, I breathed. The bond? He nodded once, painfully. I lifted trembling fingers to his cheek. He froze, breath catching, eyes widening just slightly. Yes, I whispered. I felt it. A soft, wounded sound escaped him. He leaned in. Just a fraction, like some magnetic force drew him to me. Mara, he whispered, don't. I'm not afraid of you, I said. You should be. His forehead nearly touched mine. But you're not. No. He exhaled shakily. The warmth of it touched my lips. Mara, if you are my mate, then every threat I carry becomes yours. Every enemy I have will scent you, hunt you. They will come here first. Let them, I whispered, voice steady. You said nothing crosses your threshold. His eyes closed. A tremor ran through him. "You don't understand what you're saying," he murmured. "You're choosing a path you can't unchoose." "Then explain it." "I can't," he said, voice tight. "Not without telling you things that will make you run." I lifted his chin, forcing him to meet my gaze. "I'm still here, Rowan." Another tremor. "Mara," he whispered, voice cracking. "If I tell you the rest of my truth, you won't be able to go back to your old life." "My old life," I said softly, "wasn't worth going back to." His expression flickered. Surprise, anger, sympathy, something else I couldn't name. He lifted a hand, stopping inches from my cheek. His fingers trembled. He didn't touch me, but the air between us felt like lightning waiting to strike. "If you stay close to me tonight," he whispered, "the bond will finish snapping into place." His voice dropped to a dangerous, intimate growl. "And if it snaps fully, I won't be able to let you go." My pulse thundered. "Then don't," I whispered. He inhaled sharply, a sound almost painful, and stepped back like the floor burned him. "No," he rasped. "Not yet." He grabbed a blanket from the couch and thrust it toward the loft ladder. "You sleep up there. I sleep down here. No exceptions. I need distance until sunrise. And after sunrise," his jaw tightened, "I'll tell you everything. Mating bond and curse included?" "Everything," he said again, eyes glowing faintly. "If you're still here." "I will be," I murmured. He closed his eyes in defeat, or relief, or desire. I couldn't tell. "Go," he said softly, "before I change my mind." I climbed the ladder, each rung thudding beneath my bruised palms. Before I reached the top, I felt him, looking up, watching, wanting. "Mara," he called quietly. "Yes?" His voice trembled with something raw. "Thank you for staying." The simple words hit harder than any storm. "I told you," I said softly. "I'm not leaving." When I settled into the loft, blanket pulled tight around me. Rowan lay on the couch below, body tense, eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. The wolf inside him was quiet, listening, waiting, and the bond between us pulsed like a heartbeat pulling us closer despite the distance he fought to keep. Tomorrow, he would tell me everything. But tonight, the storm outside was nothing compared to the storm inside this cabin. Chapter 8. The night. The wolves returned. I didn't sleep. Not really. Not with Rowan's presence filling the cabin like heat. Not with the bond tugging at me in slow, steady pulses that matched the rhythm of my breath. The loft was small, barely enough space for the mattress and a low shelf. Firelight flickered up the ladder, painting the rafters in gold. I lay on my side, blanket pulled to my chin, staring at the ceiling while rain whispered across the roof in soft, uneven lines. Below me, I could hear Rowan, not moving, not tossing or turning, just breathing, slow, controlled, too controlled. He was holding himself together one breath at a time. Every time the bond tugged, soft, warm, coaxing, his breath hitched. Every time I shifted position above him, the faintest rumble vibrated from deep in his chest. Not a warning. A wolf's instinctive response to its mate's movement. It should have unsettled me. I should have been frightened. But lying above him, feeling his presence settle around me like a weighted blanket, hearing the soft human vulnerability hidden beneath all that feral strength, I only felt safe. Safer than I had in years. At some point, I drifted into a half-dream state, the kind where the world feels suspended. I didn't realize I'd fallen asleep until a sound cut through the cabin, sharp and metallic, a twig snapping. Not inside. Outside. My eyes flew open, I sat up quickly, blanket falling off my shoulders, breath catching as another sound followed. A low snarl. Not Rowan's. Something else. Below, Rowan's breathing stopped entirely. "Rowan," I whispered. I heard the couch creak softly as he sat up. "Mara," he murmured, voice already thick with warning. "Don't move. Something's outside." Yes. A low growl threaded through the single word. "They've found us." Ice slid through my chest. "Who?" He didn't answer, but he didn't need to. A second snarl echoed through the trees, closer this time, followed by the unmistakable scrape of claws on wood. The porch. My breath locked in my throat. "Rowan." "Stay up there," he growled, already on his feet. I heard the soft rustle of fabric, him reaching for clothes, pulling something on. Boots thudded to the floor. "Rowan, what's out there?" "Wolves," he said, voice grim. "But not the kind you've met. Not like Rowan. Not natural. Not even truly alive." A heavy thud slammed against the front door. The wood shuddered violently, dust drifting down from the rafters. I yelped, grabbing the ladder railing on instinct. Rowan was instantly at the base of the loft, head tilted up toward me, eyes glowing fiercely in the half-dark. "Mara, you need to listen to me." "I am." "Good." His voice softened for a fraction of a second. "Because if they get inside, I need you to do exactly what I say." Another slam. Harder this time. The cabin walls rattled. My pulse spiked. "They're going to break the door." "No." His jaw clenched. "Not while I'm breathing." And then something hit the door so hard the entire cabin shook. The snarl that followed was deep, gurgling, wrong. My breath came faster. "Rowan, what kind of wolves are these?" He turned toward the door, posture shifting. Taller, broader, shoulders tight like he was bracing for impact. "They're curse-marked," he said, "twisted by dark magic. The kind my pack used against me." Cold washed over me. "They're hunting you?" "They're hunting us," he corrected, voice a low growl. "They smelled the bond." My stomach dropped. "The bond isn't even complete." "That doesn't matter," he snapped, gaze cutting to me. "Your scent changed when I shifted, when you touched me." Heat flared in my cheeks, though fear knotted my stomach. "And that means—" "What?" "It means," he said, turning back toward the door as claws scraped its surface, "that to them, you're already mine." Another shudder ran through the wood. A hinge groaned. Rowan's breath hitched, just once, and then his entire body stilled, dangerously still. "Rowan," I whispered. The air in the cabin grew thicker, hotter. He didn't move, didn't speak. "Mara," he said finally, voice dropping to something deep and primal. "Go stand against the back wall of the loft. Now." My hands trembled as I scrambled back. "Are they going to break in?" He didn't answer. Instead, he growled, a warning so vicious it rattled the floorboards. And then the front door exploded inward. It didn't just break. It shattered, ripped clean off its hinges by something huge and black and wrong. The creature that lunged into the cabin wasn't a wolf. It had the shape of one, barely, but its back was hunched, bones jutting at unnatural angles. Its eyes glowed red. Its fur dripped with something dark and sticky, like tar. It snarled, teeth blackened and twisted. My entire body went numb. "Move," Rowan snapped, and then he shifted. One heartbeat he was human. The next, his body rippled, expanded, ruptured into fur and muscle, clothes tearing as his wolf form burst free. Massive, dark, terrifying, but beautiful. Alive, powerful. The shift wasn't gentle. It wasn't slow. It was a violent, brutal release. The curse breaking through his skin like a beast freed from chains. The monster wolf lunged at him. Rowan met it midair. Fangs clashed. Blood sprayed across the wall. I clapped a hand over my mouth to stifle a scream. They slammed into the couch, flipping it across the room. Rowan roared, a sound that shook dust from the rafters. 2 more cursed wolves tore into the cabin behind the first, snarling, snapping claws gouging deep grooves into the wood. Rowan didn't hesitate. He hurled himself at them, big enough, fast enough, furious enough to hold them back alone. But 3 against 1, even his size, was a losing battle. "Rowan!" I cried, rising to my knees at the loft railing. "There's too many." "Don't come down," he snarled in a voice half wolf, half man. "You stay where I can smell you." Another wolf lunged at his flank. Rowan whirled, teeth ripping into its shoulder, throwing it into the fireplace. Sparks exploded, flames roaring. The cabin lit up in orange flashes. "Mara." Rowan's voice wavered, buried under snarls and the thud of bodies colliding. "If they reach you, run. Jump out the loft window. Do you hear me?" "No. Do you hear me?" he roared. My answer caught in my throat, because one of the cursed wolves had broken away from the fight, and it had turned toward me. Red eyes locked on the loft ladder, its lips peeled back in a snarl that promised exactly what it intended to do. "Rowan," I whispered, voice cracking. "It sees me." Rowan spun violently, tearing free from the wolves around him. "No," he howled, barreling after it. "Get away from her." The creature leapt onto the ladder, claws clicking, climbing, straight toward me. I scrambled backward, pulse screaming. The loft wall hit my spine. I was trapped. The creature was halfway up when Rowan hit it. Hard. Teeth sank into its hind leg. It shrieked, twisting violently, snapping its jaws at him. But Rowan didn't let go. He ripped it down from the ladder and slammed it into the floor so hard the boards cracked. But the effort cost him. One of the other wolves seized the opening and lunged for Rowan's exposed throat. "No," I screamed. I didn't think. I didn't decide. I moved, down the ladder, onto the railing. Rowan saw me. Time froze. His eyes, golden and furious, met mine. "Mara, stop." But it was too late. My foot slipped, and I fell from the loft, crashing down into the chaos, straight into the jaws of the monster wolves, and Rowan lost his mind. Chapter 9. The breaking point of an alpha. I didn't hit the floor the way I expected. I didn't feel splintered wood or snapping bone. I felt heat. A wall of it. A force slamming into me mid-fall. Rowan. He caught me in the air, his massive wolf body twisting beneath mine, taking the full brunt of the impact, with a sickening thud that rattled the cabin. "Rowan!" My breath tore from my lungs as we crashed sideways, rolling across the floor. Claws scraped inches from my face. A cursed wolf lunged, teeth bared. Rowan snarled so violently the walls shook. He shoved me behind him, towering over me, fur bristling, gold eyes blazing with feral fury. The sound he made wasn't a growl. It was a warning to the world. Touch her and die. The cursed wolf lunged. Rowan lunged faster. They collided, bodies slamming into the floorboards hard enough to crack them. Blood flew in a dark arc across the firelight. The scent of it hit me like a punch. Hot, iron-rich, wrong. I scrambled backward until my spine hit the overturned couch, heart in my throat. My vision blurred, my ribs screaming. Another cursed wolf, its spine grotesquely curved, eyes burning red, fixed its gaze on me. Rowan sensed it immediately. He spun with impossible speed, but not fast enough. The creature launched. Its claws scraped my leg, hot pain searing up my calf, and Rowan lost whatever humanity he'd been holding on to. He moved like lightning, like shadow, like a storm given teeth. He slammed into the wolf midair, jaws clamping around its throat, ripping it off me and throwing it across the cabin in a spray of dark fluid. It hit the far wall with a wet crack. "Mara!" His voice tore through the wolf's form, half-shifted, barely human. "Are you hurt?" My throat locked. "My leg. Just a scratch. Rowan, be careful." No time. No chance. The largest of the cursed wolves barreled into him. Rowan staggered, claws gouging deep trenches into the floor as he fought for footing. Its jaws closed on his shoulder. Blood burst between its teeth. Rowan roared, a sound that froze my blood and shattered something deep inside me. He slammed his body sideways, crushing the wolf into the firestone hearth, but it didn't let go. Its teeth dug deeper. "No, no, no, Rowan!" I lurched forward without thinking, grabbing the nearest thing, a fire iron from beside the hearth. My ribs screamed, my leg burned, but adrenaline drowned everything. The cursed wolf's red eyes flicked toward me, and that split second was enough. Rowan tore free, ripping its jaw apart with a vicious twist. I stumbled backward, breath heaving, the iron trembling in my hands. The smallest cursed wolf, the one with a broken leg from earlier, limped toward me, snarling through foam. It crouched to spring. I lifted the fire iron, my hand shaking. But before I could swing, a massive dark blur surged over me. Rowan. He slammed into the wolf mid-pounce, pinning it to the floor. His claws drove into its chest, ending it instantly. For a moment, a horrible, breathless moment, there was silence. My heart pounded. My body shook. The fire hissed. Rowan stood over the last fallen wolf, chest heaving, fur slicked with sweat and blood, most of it his. His wolf shape flickered, fading in and out. Like the curse was pulling at him again, fighting him, consuming him. "Rowan," I whispered, voice breaking. "You're hurt." He turned toward me slowly, too slowly. His eyes, oh God. The gold was burning too bright, swallowing the pupils, glowing with a heat that wasn't just rage or pain or instinct. It was the mating bond. Fully awake, fully aware, and right now, he was caught between predator and protector, between the wolf and the man, between killing and claiming. "Mara," his voice layered over itself. Two voices, one human, one beast. "Stay back." He stumbled. Once, twice. His claws retracted, then extended again involuntarily. His body convulsed, bones shifting under his skin. Not a full shift, not controlled. Like the wolf was trying to break free piece by piece. I dropped the fire iron. "Rowan, listen to me. You're bleeding. Sit down, please. Don't," he growled, staggering backward. "Don't come closer. But he slammed a hand, half paw, against the wall, leaving deep gouges. "I can smell your fear," he rasped, "and your pain." He sucked in a ragged breath. "And your scent." Heat curled in my stomach despite everything. "Mara," he whispered, voice trembling. "The bond, it's snapping fully into place. Right now. I can feel your pulse from across the room. My heartbeat stuttered, and I can hear your thoughts trying to reach me." I blinked, shocked. "My thoughts?" "Not clearly," he grit out. "Feelings, intent. The wolf is responding." He doubled over, claws scraping the floor, teeth lengthening again. His voice cracked. "Mara, don't let me mark you this way." "I'm not letting you do anything." I said, voice shaking. "You're hurt. Let me help you." "You are helping," he growled, "just by being here. The wolf is trying to get to you, to protect you, to hold you." He slammed his fist into the floor, leaving splinters. "Because it thought you died when you fell." Guilt slammed into me, sudden and overwhelming. "Rowan, I'm so sorry. You didn't mean to break the last thread I had on my control," he snarled, frustrated and pained. "But you did." His breathing grew harsh, shallow, unsteady. He pressed his forehead to the ground, shaking. A deep, guttural rumble vibrated through the floorboards. "Rowan?" No answer. Just trembling. I took a step toward him, then another. His head jerked up violently, eyes blazing. "Stop." I froze. "If you touch me right now?" His voice sank to a deep, ruined whisper. "I won't be able to stop the bond from finishing." My pulse thundered. "And if the bond finishes, what happens?" He looked at me. Really looked at me. Through the pain, through the curse, through the wolf and the man fighting inside him. What he said wrecked me. "I will belong to you," he swallowed hard, "and you will belong to me." Silence. Thick, alive, unbreakable. "But you must choose it," he whispered. "Not the wolf, not instinct. You, your choice, your will." His voice splintered at the end. "I won't take you without that." My throat tightened painfully. He was shaking now, violently, losing the battle against the curse, against instinct, against everything inside him unraveling. If I didn't act, if he shifted again in this half-broke state, the curse would tear him apart from the inside. "Rowan," I whispered, stepping closer despite everything he warned. His breath hitched. His claws dug into the floorboards. "Mara, don't—" I knelt in front of him, close enough to touch. His entire body went rigid. A tremor ran through him so hard it nearly threw him to the side. "Mara," he pleaded, voice wrecked. "If you touch me, I'll finish the bond." I reached out, my hand trembling, and cupped his cheek. His eyes rolled back, a groan tearing from his chest, heat exploding through the bond like wildfire. Too late, too far, too deep. "Mara," his voice broke, "you don't know what you've done." "I know," I whispered, and I meant it. Rowan surged toward me, not attacking, collapsing, falling forward into my arms, his forehead pressing to my shoulder. His breath was hot against my neck, shaking. The bond pulsed, once, twice, then snapped completely into place. The room blurred, the ground shook, the air thickened, and Rowan, Alpha cursed broken mine, lifted his head, eyes blazing gold, a soft, shocked sound leaving him. "Mara." The doorframe behind him splintered suddenly. More wolves outside, not cursed. Real. Alive. And many. Rowan's head snapped toward the sound, a snarl rumbling deep in his chest. "No," he whispered. "Not now. Not her. Mara," he breathed. "My pack is here." Chapter 10. The Alpha claimed silence, heavy, electric, suffocating, fell over the cabin. Not the silence of safety. Not the silence after danger. The silence before everything breaks. Rowan's body went still in my arms, every muscle locked with a tension I felt down to the marrow. His breathing hitched, chest brushing mine, hot and uneven. His skin burned where my hand still cupped his cheek, the final point of contact that had snapped our bond into place. His pupils were blown wide. His eyes, blazing gold, were feral and terrified at the same time. "Mara," he whispered, voice raw, "don't move." A shadow passed across the shattered doorway, then another, and another. Shapes, tall, hulking silhouettes, fanned out across the porch, blocking what little moonlight filtered through the thinning storm clouds. I felt them more than saw them. Predators, powerful and silent, their presence swelling like pressure across my chest. What are they? I whispered. Rowan shifted closer, a protective instinct shaking through him. He put his body between mine and the door, crouched, ready to spring. My pack, he said quietly. Fear crawled down my spine. You're what's left of... No. His eyes flicked toward the movement outside. My former pack. My breath stilled. He pressed a hand to the floor, weight coiled in his legs, voice dropping low. They shouldn't be here. Not tonight. Not when the bond is fresh. A low growl rolled across the porch. Not cursed, not twisted. Real wolves, shifters, waiting. Rowan trembled, jaw clenched so tight I thought it might crack. He wasn't afraid of them. He was afraid for me. Rowan, I whispered, tell me what they want. His breath hitched. He turned to me slowly, his face inches from mine. They came because the bond snapped, he said, because they felt it. How? I asked, even though part of me already knew. He lifted a trembling hand to my cheek, knuckles grazing my skin like he needed the touch to ground himself. Because I'm still their rightful alpha, he breathed. I froze. He had never said it plainly before. And when an alpha bond ignites, he continued, the entire pack feels the power ripple through the bloodline, whether they want to or not. Cold washed through me. So, they know about me. They know you have a mate. Rowan's jaw flexed with a mixture of fury and despair. They know, he rasped, and they will not accept you. My heart hammered. Why not? Because you're human, he said softly. Because the alpha mate decides the future of the pack. His voice dropped lower, a growl threading through it. And because claiming you means the curse on me is broken. I blinked. Isn't that good? For me, he said. Yes, for them. His eyes darkened. It means their authority collapses. The new alpha bond overrides the old hierarchy. So they're here to kill us, Rowan said simply. A shape stepped into the cabin entrance. Large, human, half-shifted, eyes gleaming amber. Then another, and another, until I counted 6. Rain dripped from their hair, claws glinted at their fingertips. Their scents hit me like a wall. Earth, moonlight, iron. But Rowan's reaction, that was what chilled me. His body went rigid, his breath stilled. The wolf inside him surged so fiercely it shook the air. Get behind me, he said quietly. I did. The pack's leader stepped forward, a tall man with silver streaks in his beard and cruel intelligence in his eyes. Rowan, he said, voice smooth and cold, you should not be alive. Rowan growled, low, dangerous, promising blood. You cursed me, he said, tried to bury me. You were dangerous, the man replied calmly. You still are. His gaze slid to me, and something inside me revolted, instantly. A snarl tore from Rowan's throat so violent the cabin shook. You scent of her, the man murmured, gaze narrowing. A human. Your mate. A pulse of heat shot down the bond. Rowan's breath heaved. She is mine, he said, voice layered with the wolf beneath. And you will not touch her. A murmur rippled through the pack outside. The silver-bearded man lifted an eyebrow. Then it's true. The bond snapped. A slow smile curled on his lips. Good. That means killing you will be easier. Rowan surged forward. I grabbed his arm. Rowan, no, you're hurt. The silver-haired wolf barked a laugh. You never could resist a human, he taunted. She'll die first. Something inside Rowan detonated. He shifted. Not fully. Not wolf. Not human. Something in between. Dangerous. Magnificent. Terrifying. His claws extended, his fangs lengthened, his back arched with raw power that made the pack retreat a full step. Mine, Rowan snarled. Gold light rippled off his skin like waves, the bond manifesting, power rising, magic burning through the curse like fire. The pack leader hissed. You broke the binding mark. Rowan smiled, a brutal, feral thing. No, he growled. She broke it. Every eye in the cabin turned to me, and in that moment, in the trembling silence, I felt something shift. Inside me, inside the bond, inside Rowan. Power. Warm. Strange. Spreading like roots down into the earth. The pack leader's expression darkened instantly. Oh, he said softly. So it's true. True, I breathed. Rowan's voice was a rumble at my side. Your soul isn't human only, he whispered. The bond wouldn't have completed if it was. My stomach dropped. What are you saying? I whispered. Before he could answer, the pack attacked. 6 wolves, 1 unsteady alpha, and me, caught between them. Rowan shoved me behind him with a snarl that shook the cabin. Stay down, he commanded, voice breaking. Stay where I can scent you. Claws slashed, teeth snapped, bodies collided. Rowan met the first wolf head-on, a blur of dark fur, golden light, and blood. 2 more circled behind him. A 4th lunged at me, and Rowan tore it away with a roar that froze the world. Mara, he shouted, voice ripping through the chaos. Run! No, I screamed. I'm not leaving you. He turned his head, eyes blazing, blood dripping from his jaw. And for a moment the wolf receded. Then crouch, he rasped, and stay low. I dropped instantly. He roared and slammed into the pack leader, sending both of them crashing into the table, shattering it to splinters. The cabin erupted in chaos. Wolves, blood, snarls, firelight. But through it all, Rowan kept himself between me and the claws. Every moment, every swing, every breath, he was my shield. My bondmate, my cursed alpha. And when the pack leader finally managed to wrestle Rowan onto his back, claws sinking toward his throat, something inside me snapped wide open. Heat surged down the bond. My pulse thundered. Rowan gasped, feeling it, eyes snapping to mine in shock. Mara, he choked. What are you? I didn't know. I couldn't know. I stepped forward anyway. Into the fight, into the danger. Because the bond pulled me like gravity. The pack leader snarled. Stupid human. And then Rowan moved. Not like before. Not weakened. Not cursed. Like an alpha reborn. He tore free with a surge of power that cracked the floorboards. Gold light exploded across his skin. The curse mark on his neck burned away in a flare of heat. He seized the pack leader by the throat, lifted him, growled with ancient authority, and the cabin went still. You touched what's mine, Rowan said quietly. Now yield. The pack leader choked. Then he dropped to his knees. One by one, every wolf behind him fell too. Silence swallowed the room. Rowan turned toward me, shaking, breathing hard, eyes blazing gold in the firelight. The bond hummed between us, alive, vibrating, complete. His voice was barely a whisper. Mara, what are you? Chapter 11. Bloodlines and Broken Truths. For a long moment, the world didn't move. Not the wolves kneeling in the doorway. Not the fire guttering low in the hearth. Not Rowan, half-shifted, blood streaking his skin, chest heaving with the weight of victory he hadn't expected to survive. And not me. His eyes, bright molten gold, rimmed with dark wolf shadow, locked onto mine with a question that tasted like fear. What are you? I opened my mouth. No sound came out, because I didn't know. I'd never known. The wolves stayed kneeling, heads bowed, but it was no gesture of peace. It was instinct. Submission. Not to me, but to Rowan, the alpha they'd once tried to bury. Rowan swallowed, throat working. His claws retracted inch by inch as he forced himself back into human form. Bones shifted beneath skin. His breath hissed through clenched teeth. And then he was kneeling in front of me, still larger than any normal man, still too warm, still wild. But Rowan again. The Rowan who had caught me when I fell, who had fought an entire pack alone just to keep me breathing. His hand lifted, trembling, and for a moment he hesitated, like touching me again might destroy him. But he brushed his thumb against my cheek anyway. A shock of warmth rushed through the bond. Not painful, powerful. "Mara," he whispered, voice shredded, "when you stepped toward me just now, before I got free, something happened. My curse broke. My strength snapped back as if the moon poured itself into my bones." His thumb shifted to my jaw, gentle, reverent. "That power, it came from you." I felt the truth of it. Deep, heavy, echoing. "I don't know what I did," I whispered. "You didn't do," he murmured. "You are." My breath snagged. "That doesn't make sense. I'm human." "Human souls don't anchor an alpha bond like this." His fingers slid to the back of my neck, the touch a careful promise he didn't dare fully give. "Human hearts don't survive the pull, and they don't break curses that have held for years." I recoiled slightly, shaking my head. No, I can't be. Rowan, I'm just me. Nothing about my life has ever been special. His gaze softened, painfully. "Maybe not before," he said quietly, "but tonight, the bond chose, and it chose you." My stomach twisted. "You mean fate chose me, against my will, against yours?" Something fractured across Rowan's face. "No." He cupped my cheek with both hands now, warm and firm and trembling. "The wolf chose you. But I didn't fight it, Mara. I couldn't. His voice failed for a heartbeat. "I felt you long before I saw you." The bond hummed at his words. Deep, electrifying, dangerous. I swallowed against the heat rising beneath my skin. "Rowan, why would fate bind you to someone like me?" He leaned in until our foreheads touched. The world narrowed to his breath on my lips. "Mara," he whispered, voice breaking. "You survived things that should have crushed you. You walked into a storm for a stranger. You ran toward danger instead of away. Your heart..." His breath hitched. "I felt your heart the moment it recognized mine." My eyes burned. Emotion rose like a tide I couldn't hold back. "Rowan," my voice wavered, "I'm not strong like you think. I left because I was afraid. I ran from someone who hurt me." His grip tightened. Protective, furious, tender all at once. "I know," he said softly. "I smelled it on you the first moment I touched you." My breath froze. Smelled? Fear. Old fear. Wounds too deep for the skin. He shook his head, a low rumble shifting in his chest. "I thought it was me, at first. Or the wolf. But it wasn't. Someone hurt you." He drew a breath that trembled dangerously. "And if they ever come near you again, I will..." He stopped, jaw razor sharp. "No," he corrected. "We will take care of it." "We," I whispered. His thumb brushed my lip. "You're not alone anymore." A shudder tore down my spine, not from fear, from recognition. Something inside me, something sleeping, stirred at his words. Before I could answer, a low whine echoed from the doorway. One of the wolves, half human, eyes lowered, was kneeling with his head bowed so low his forehead touched the floor. "Alpha," he rasped. You Live. A growl vibrated in Rowan's chest. Not pleasure, not pride. Warning. I live because you all failed to kill me, he said coldly. Do not pretend loyalty now. The wolves flinched. The silver-haired leader lifted his head, eyes narrowed with bitter respect. You broke the curse, he said. The mark is gone. The bond made you whole. Rowan moved in front of me again, as if expecting an attack. I didn't break it, he said. She did. 6 pairs of amber eyes turned to me. Heat crawled up my cheeks. I didn't mean... She is my mate, Rowan growled, and that makes her your Luna. A wave of scent rolled through the pack. A flash of ozone and earth, wolf instinct swirling thick in the air. I stepped back automatically. Rowan. His hand caught mine. Warm. Rough. Commanding. You don't have to accept that, he murmured, voice softer, meant just for me. Not yet. Not ever, if you choose. But tonight, they will not touch you. They will not threaten you. They will not look at you without my permission. A shiver crawled down my spine. Power, raw, ancient, drifted from him to me, through the bond like heat from a flame. The pack leader's lip curled. That human girl, he sneered. A Luna? Impossible. Rowan's snarl cracked the air. In a blur of movement, he seized the man by the throat and slammed him against the wall so hard dust rained from the rafters. She is not human only, Rowan growled in a voice that vibrated the cabin walls. Tell them, Mara. My breath hitched. Rowan, I don't know what I am. Yes, he said, turning his head just enough to look at me. You do. I shook my head helplessly. No, Mara. His voice dropped, deep and quiet. What happened when you stepped into the fight earlier? I remembered it. The heat, the light, the rush of something ancient in my veins. I don't know, I whispered. Everything. It just felt different. That was your blood waking, Rowan said. Your lineage calling to mine. My lineage? I echoed weakly. I don't have one. I had a mother who died, and a man who... You don't have a wolf, Rowan interrupted gently, but your soul recognized mine instantly. He stepped closer, releasing the pack leader, who collapsed to the floor gasping. You felt the bond before I touched you, Rowan said. You sensed the danger before you saw it. You broke the curse by willing me to survive. His thumb brushed my wrist, right over where my pulse hammered. And your heartbeat, he whispered, calls to mine like moonlight calls the tide. Emotion flooded me, scalding, unreal, overwhelming. Rowan, what does that mean? He leaned into me, forehead nearly touching mine, voice barely a breath. It means you're not human, Mara. You're something older, something forgotten. His eyes burned gold and bright. You're the only thing in this world the moon listens to, he whispered. You're a moon touched. The wolves behind him gasped. Even the pack leader's eyes went wide with fear. A what? I breathed. Rowan smiled, soft, aching, reverent. My mate, he whispered. Born of starlight, marked by fate. A soul so rare the wolf goddess herself claimed you. Everything inside me rocked. I don't understand. You will, he murmured, cupping my face again. And when the moon rises tomorrow, the truth will wake inside you. His voice dropped to a dangerous, intimate growl. And when it does, you won't run from me anymore. My heart stuttered. Heat curled low in my stomach. Rowan. He leaned in, lips almost brushing mine. Breath mingling. The bond pulling tight enough to steal the air from my lungs. His voice dropped to a whisper that felt like a touch. Tomorrow, he said, you'll know why fate bound us. And then, Mara, His lips barely grazed mine. A ghost of a kiss, enough to set the bond blazing. You'll choose whether to claim me. Chapter 12. Moonrise and the choice. The night did not return to peace. Not really. Not with shattered furniture. Blood streaked across the cabin floor, and 6 wolves kneeling with bowed heads, like penitents before a god they'd betrayed. But the storm had passed, and Rowan was alive. I clung to that fact like a lifeline. His hand remained on my cheek, thumb brushing lightly back and forth in a motion that felt far too intimate for someone who had nearly died minutes ago. His skin was warm, too warm, and the bond pulsed with every beat of his heart, humming through my bones like some ancient song I didn't know the words to yet. Outside, the clouds parted for the first time in hours, and the moon, heavy, bruised gold, rose over the treetops. Rowan inhaled sharply. He turned his face toward the light, nostrils flaring. "It begins," he murmured. A chill skittered down my spine. "What begins?" He didn't answer. Not immediately. Slowly, he turned back to me, and the look in his eyes made my breath catch. Not feral, not cursed, not afraid. Reverent. "Mara," he said softly, "you should sit." "I'm fine." "You're not," he whispered, stepping closer. "And what's coming won't let you stay upright." Before I could ask what that meant, heat punched through my chest. A jolt like lightning running directly through the bond. I gasped, stumbled. My knees buckled. Rowan was there instantly. Arms around me, lowering me gently to the couch as if I weighed nothing. Warmth spilled outward from where his hands touched me. But this time, it wasn't his warmth. It was mine, but amplified, awakened, set alight by the moon rising through the cabin windows. A glow, soft, pale, shimmering, lifted from my skin like mist. "What is—" Rowan knelt on the floor at my knees, his breath uneven. "You're waking," he whispered. "Your bloodline is answering the moon." "My bloodline?" "Yes." He swallowed hard, eyes fixed on the light shimmering over my skin. "You were born of a human mother, yes, but your soul, your power, it's older, moon-blessed, lost for centuries. Lost, like Rowan had been." My breath trembled. What does it mean? What am I? His fingers curled around mine, gently, carefully, like he thought I might break. Even now, even after fighting a pack, even after losing control, he handled me like something precious. "A moon touched is the only thing the wolf goddess ever made equal to an alpha," he said. "The only thing a cursed alpha can bond to without being consumed." My pulse kicked hard. "So I saved you." "Yes." His voice broke. "In every way." The glow intensified. It felt strange, almost like breath expanding in my chest, like wings unfurling, like something inside me finally stretching after a lifetime of sleeping. "It doesn't hurt," I whispered. "It's not meant to," he said. "The goddess isn't cruel. She awakens you gently, because your soul has already suffered enough." Emotion hit me so fiercely I had to look away. "Mara." His voice was soft. "Sure." Alpha and man woven together seamlessly for the first time. I met his gaze. And the bond pulsed once. Strong, real, whole. He swallowed. "I need to ask you something." My breath hitched. "Yes." "Do you know what the moon-touched are?" "No." "They choose," he whispered. "Always. They choose their mate freely. No bond can force them. No fate can bind them without consent. You're the only one with that power." I stared at him. My heart skittered dangerously. "You mean, even now?" If I decide not to... Rowan nodded once, jaw tight. You could reject the bond, he said, voice hoarse, and I would let you go. Everything in me shuddered. Pain, fear, longing, all tangled too tightly. And if I choose you... He exhaled a sound that was not quite human, not quite wolf. Something deep and raw and reverent. If you choose me, he murmured, I become your alpha fully, your partner, your shield, your mate. In every way. My pulse trembled in my throat. And you? His hands tightened on mine. I already chose you, he said. The simplest truth in the world, spoken with terrifying, beautiful certainty. But that choice is nothing unless you choose me back. The wolves behind him shifted uneasily, heads still bowed, waiting, listening. Their entire world hung on my answer. I looked at Rowan, at the man who had fought monsters for me, who had held himself back because he didn't want to take anything I didn't freely give, whose curse had shattered because my soul reached for his. My chest tightened. Warmth surged through me again. Not the awakening this time. Something else. Something deeper. Rowan, I whispered, I don't know what I'm becoming. He leaned closer. That doesn't matter. But I know what I feel. His breath hitched. And I know what I want. His hands tensed around mine. Mara. Lightning didn't flash. Thunder didn't roll. The moment was small, quiet, but it changed everything. I lifted my hands, glowing faintly with moonlight, and placed them on either side of his face. Rowan froze. A tremor ran through him so powerful his eyes fluttered shut. I leaned forward until our foreheads touched. Warm breath mingled. The world narrowed to a single point. I choose you, I whispered. Rowan inhaled sharply, like the air had been punched out of him. A soft, broken sound escaped him. His hands rose to cover mine. Mara. I choose the bond, I breathed, voice shaking. I choose you as my alpha. His eyes snapped open. Glowing gold. Burning. Alive. And I choose you, I whispered again. As my mate. The bond, the one that had pulsed and tugged and burned, erupted. Light flared between our joined hands. The wolves behind him collapsed to their knees in instinctive awe. Rowan's breath caught. A sharp, reverent inhale, as if something ancient had finally settled into place inside him. Slowly, painfully, beautifully, he leaned in. His lips brushed mine, just barely. A whisper, a promise, and the bond locked fully, completely irrevocably into place. Heat rippled through my body. Light warmth connection, certainty all woven into a single, breath-stealing moment. Rowan pulled back only far enough to look at me. His thumb brushed my lower lip. Slow, almost worshipful. Mara, he murmured, voice rough with emotion he couldn't hide anymore. My Luna. My breath stuttered. Rowan. His gaze softened into something that made my heart crack open. You've chosen me, he whispered, and now... He bowed his head to me. This fierce, cursed, powerful alpha bowed to me. I swear myself to you. Something inside me, something ancient and awakening, recognized the vow. The wolves on the porch lowered themselves even further, foreheads touching the floor in submission. But Rowan only looked at me. Only ever me. Mara, he whispered again, voice trembling, bond blazing, moonlight pooling around us both. You are mine. He lifted my hand, pressed it to his heart. And I, he breathed, am eternally yours. The moon outside shone brighter. The bond pulsed warm and sure. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't running anymore. The cabin was quiet now. No snarls, no claws, no storm threatening the roof. Just the low crackle of the fire, and Rowan's heartbeat beneath my ear. We sat curled together on the couch, his arm wrapped firmly around me, my body tucked into the warm hollow of his side. His skin was clean now, the blood washed away, and the wounds already fading. Alpha healing. The moon hung high outside the broken doorway, spilling soft silver light over the wreckage inside the cabin. The pack had slipped back into the woods hours ago, some bowing their heads to me before they left, others avoiding my gaze entirely. The future with them was uncertain, but for the first time, uncertainty didn't mean fear. Rowan nuzzled the top of my head, inhaling softly. "You're warm," he murmured. "You're half furnace," I whispered back. He huffed a quiet laugh. "I told you." Silence lapped at us again. Comfortable this time. Safe. I shifted so I could see his face fully. Even in the low light, his gold eyes glowed faintly, softened by affection, by relief, and something deeper, a sense of wonder I wasn't used to seeing on someone so powerful. "Are you okay?" I asked. "After all that?" His thumb stroked my hip. "Now?" "Yes." "And before?" His jaw flexed. He looked away toward the doorway, toward the forest that had once exiled him. "No alpha remains whole after losing a pack," he said quietly. "Every day out here, I felt empty, like the wolf was howling through a hollow chest." He tilted his forehead to mine. "Until you." Heat fluttered low in my stomach, warm and aching. "Rowan." My voice was soft. "I thought the curse was my end," he whispered, "but it was only a waiting. A suffering I had to endure to find the one thing strong enough to break it." He brushed a strand of hair behind my ear, fingers grazing the back of my neck in a way that made my breath catch. "You saved me." A lump rose in my throat. "Rowan, I didn't even know—" "You knew enough," he murmured. "Your soul knew. That's all that mattered." I swallowed hard. "What happens now? With the pack? With us?" His eyes softened with something like pride. "Now," he said, "you and I rebuild. Together." He kissed my forehead, slow and grounding. "The pack will return. Some will follow. Some will challenge. But the bond makes us stronger than anything they can throw at us." "And if they don't accept me," I whispered. His fingers slid beneath my chin, lifting my face to his. "Then we walk away," he said simply. "Leave this forest. Leave these mountains. Start our own life. Our own pack." He kissed my knuckles reverently. "Anywhere is home if you're there." My chest tightened. I've never been anyone's home before. He pressed his forehead to mine. "You're mine," he said, a voice low with truth. "And I'm yours." The bond pulsed warm between us, a gentle, steady heartbeat. "Will it always feel like this?" I whispered. "Yes," he murmured, "and stronger every moon." Outside, a soft breeze rustled the pines, carrying the scent of earth, rain, and wolf, a scent I'd grown to crave. I leaned into his chest, letting his warmth seep into every bruised, healing part of me. "Rowan?" "Yes, love." "I'm not afraid anymore." He exhaled shakily, a breath I knew he'd been holding since the moment we met. "Good," he whispered against my hair, arms tightening around me. "Because this is only the beginning." And when he kissed me, slow and certain and claiming, I felt the truth of it unfurl deep inside me. The storm was over. The bond was forged. The future was ours. Moonlit, faded, and forever.